Hi, everyone, and welcome back. It's Racheal. I want to start today with an observation. It's one I've been sitting with for a while, and I think it applies to more of us than we'd like to admit. A lot of us are spending our present lives in our past, not visiting the past, not thinking about it now and then, living in it, rehearsing the old hurts, replaying the old conversations, cataloging the old traumas, cycling through the old regrets, chewing on what someone did to us 5, 10, 20 years ago, as if the chewing were going to change anything about what happened, as if we're going to unlock a door by turning the same key in it over and over for the rest of our lives. And while we do that, while we spend our real, finite, only shot at this present moments locked in a room that stopped being current a long time ago, the actual present is happening around us, and we're missing it. This is a hard topic to talk about carefully because I don't want to be another voice telling you to just let it go. That advice has been given badly for a very long time, and it's hurt a lot of people who deserved better. If you've been through something real, telling you to release it does not make the release possible. Wishing doesn't process trauma. Neither does willpower. Neither does affirmation. And I'm not going to pretend otherwise. So today we're going to talk about a different move. Not letting go, but something more honest and more possible and more clinically accurate. Acknowledging what happened and letting it stay in the past where it belongs. Not gone, not erased, not resolved, just placed, given a room, left in the room, so the rest of your life can happen in the rest of your house. That's what we're doing today. So pull up a chair. 1. What this episode is not. Before I say anything else, I want to be clear about what I am not saying, because this topic gets murdered in the wellness discourse, and I do not want to add to the pile. I'm not saying the past doesn't matter. It does matter. It shaped you. It made you who you are. Ignoring it is not a virtue. I'm not just saying get over it. That's not the advice. That is a dismissal wearing advice as clothing. If it were possible to just get over things, we would all have already done it, because none of us enjoys carrying pain around. I'm not saying choose happiness. Happiness isn't always a choice. Some days it isn't available. Some seasons of life it isn't available for long stretches. Telling somebody who's genuinely struggling to choose happiness is like telling somebody with a broken leg to choose walking. The equipment isn't working. I'm not saying your trauma is holding you back and you need to release it. Real trauma isn't released by insight. It's processed slowly, often with professional help, and even then, some of it stays. Anyone telling you otherwise is either selling you something or hasn't been through anything hard enough to know the difference. Here's what I am saying, because I want us to be on the same page from the start. Some of us have gotten stuck, not because we're weak, not because we haven't tried, not because we're refusing to heal, but because at some point along the way, our attention got trained on the past, trained on the wound, trained on the old story, trained on the version of ourselves that got hurt, and it stayed there. And now, whatever is happening in front of us today has to compete for attention with a past that never quite stops broadcasting. And the cost of that is our current life, not our past, our current life. The Tuesday afternoon we're currently in, the conversation we could be having, the joy that's quietly available to us if we could bring ourselves to look up. That's what this episode is trying to help with. Not because letting the past go is possible, because letting the past be past is possible, even for people with heavy histories, even for people whose histories are not fully processed, even for you right now wherever you are in the work. 2. Processing versus rumination. Let me get one clinical distinction on the table quickly, because it matters for the rest of the conversation. There are two very different things that look like thinking about the past, but they're often confused with each other. But they're not the same thing, and one of them helps and the other one hurts. The first one is processing. Processing is what happens when you sit with something that happened to you, feel what you feel about it, understand it a little better, and slowly integrate it into your larger sense of who you are and what you've been through. It happens in therapy, it happens in journaling, it happens in honest conversations with people who love you, it happens sometimes during long walks. It is productive. Each time you do it, something moves. You come out the other side with a slightly clearer, slightly less painful, slightly more integrated version of the memory. The second one is rumination. Rumination is what happens at 3 in the morning when your brain keeps running the same loop. Same scene, same person, same argument, same wound, same shame, same hurt, over and over. Nothing new gets processed. Nothing integrates. You are not learning anything. You are not moving anything. Your brain is just running the tape again and again. Rumination feels like productive thinking. It has the shape of processing, but it isn't. It's your nervous system stuck in a loop, using the same old material to keep itself agitated without producing any of the integration that actual processing would give you. This distinction matters because a lot of people who think they're working through their past are actually just ruminating on it. And the difference between the two is whether anything is actually moving or being solved. If you've been thinking about the same hurt in the same way for the past decade and nothing has shifted or been solved in how it feels, that is not processing. That is a loop, and loops don't heal. They just wear grooves. If you're in actual processing with a therapist in real inner work, keep going. This episode is not about you. If you are in a rumination loop and you've been calling it processing, this episode is very much about you. And you are not doing anything wrong. Rumination is just what brains do. It's just important to know when it's happening so we can start doing something different. 3. Why we stay there. Now I want to talk about why we do this. Because if we're going to invite people out of a loop they've been living in for years, we owe them the respect of understanding why the loop feels like home. People do not stay stuck in the past because they are weak or lazy or refusing to heal. They stay stuck for real reasons. And I want to name a few of them because recognizing the reason is often the first step to gently moving past it. Reason 1. The past is familiar. The present is not. Whatever happened to you, however painful, is known. You have run through it 1,000 times. You know the shape of it. You know how it feels. There are no surprises left in the past, only wounds you've already mapped. That familiarity is its own kind of comfort, however painful the material is. The present, by contrast, is uncertain. Anything could happen today. The past cannot hurt you in any new way. The present can. So the brain keeps returning to the known place, even when the known place is painful, because painful and known is easier for a scared nervous system than uncertain and open. Reason 2. The past is where the injustice is. If you were wronged, really wronged, in a way that was never made right, the past is where that wrong still lives. Rehearsing it, at some level, feels like the only witness statement anyone will ever give. If you stop thinking about it, the record goes silent. And that silence can feel like letting the person who hurt you win. So you keep it alive. You keep the file open. You keep the case in your own private court, running an appeal that will never be heard. This one is particularly common for people who never got an apology, acknowledgement, or accountability from the person who hurt them. The rehearsing feels like the only justice available. Reason 3. The past is where the person is. Sometimes what we're holding on to is not a hurt, but a person. Someone we lost, someone who left, someone who died, someone who's still alive but not available to us in the way they used to be. Living in the past is sometimes the only way we know how to stay near them. To stop thinking about them feels like a second loss. So we keep them alive by keeping the past alive. And the whole present sits in the shadow of the person who used to be there. Reason 4. The past explains us to ourselves. If you have a difficult history, that history often becomes the explanation for who you are today. I am this way because of what happened. I struggle with this because of what she or he did. I can't do that because of what my parents were like. The story of the past is what makes sense of the present. And letting the past recede a little bit means the explanation recedes too, which means you have to start explaining yourself in the present tense, based on who you are now, not who you were shaped to be. That's harder than it sounds. A lot of us keep the past close because we don't yet know how to talk about ourselves without it. Reason 5. The past is where we still have hope. This is the quietest one, and I want to say it carefully. If you keep going back to the past, to the parent who might yet love you, to the ex who might yet apologize, to the friend who might yet come around, to the version of this story where things went differently, you are keeping a certain kind of hope alive. The hope that this thing that hurt you still has a chance of being made right. Accepting that it is past means accepting that whatever it was going to be, it already was. That's a grief. And a lot of us stay stuck in the past because facing the grief of it being permanently over is harder than continuing to hope for the alternative ending. Is any of these landed for you? I want you to hear something. You're not doing anything wrong. Your brain is protecting you from things that felt too big to face all at once. That protection made sense. It worked. It got you here. But it may be time to notice that the protection has become the problem and to start considering whether the past could be placed in a room instead of carried in your hands. 4. Acknowledging the past without living in it. So here's the move I want to offer. It's not letting go. It's something more honest and I think more available. It's acknowledgement plus placement. Acknowledgement means, yes, it happened, all of it, the hurt, the loss, the wrong, the grief. You do not have to pretend it didn't happen. You don't have to minimize it. You don't have to say it was a lesson or a gift or anything other than what it actually was, which was hard and which shaped you. Acknowledgement is the opposite of denial. It says the truth of the past out loud to yourself without softening it. Placement means, and it belongs there, in the past, in the room where past things live. You are allowed to visit the room. You are allowed to sit in it sometimes when you need to. You are allowed to bring what you learned there into your present. but you are not required to live in that room. You are not required to drag its furniture into every other room of your life. You are allowed to close the door and go into the kitchen and make yourself a sandwich. The past is a room in your house, not the whole house, just one room. This is different from letting go. Letting go implies release, and release implies that the material was in your hand to begin with. For a lot of people, the material is not something they were ever holding. It's something that got done to them. You can't release what was done to you the way you release a grudge, because it isn't a grudge. It's a fact of your life. But you can place it. You can decide that even though this thing happened, it's not going to be the wallpaper in every room I enter. It happened, and it's going to have its own room, and I'm going to use the rest of my house living my present life. When I need to visit the room, I will visit the room. When I need to close the door, I will close the door. The room does not get to follow me around. This move is available even when the material is not fully processed, even when you're still in therapy for it, even when the grief is still raw, even when the trauma is still active. You don't have to be done with something to stop dragging it into every present moment. You just have to start in small ways, noticing when it's happening, and returning your attention to what is actually in front of you. That is the whole practice in one sentence. Notice when the past is running your present. Gently return your attention to what is actually here. It's not dramatic. It's not one time. It's a small, repeated, quiet redirection over and over for the rest of your life. And each time you do it, you're voting for your present over your past. Not because your past doesn't matter, but because your present is where your life is currently happening, and your life deserves to be attended to. 5. What this actually looks like. Let me get concrete, because reframes are useful, but people also need to know what the actual practice looks like on a Tuesday afternoon. Move 1. Notice when you're looping. The first practice is just noticing. When you catch yourself running the same tape for the third time this week, the same argument, the same wound, the same grievance, pause. Say to yourself, I'm looping. You don't have to fix it. You don't have to make it stop. You just have to notice that it's happening. Because most of the time, we are inside the loop without knowing we're doing it. Naming it puts a small crack in the walls. Move 2. Ask what you're getting out of it. When you notice you're looping, ask yourself, without judgment, what the loop is doing for you today. Is it keeping someone alive in your mind who's otherwise absent? Is it maintaining a case for a wrong that was never made right? Is it protecting you from feeling something happening right now? Is it explaining you to yourself? The answers are always real answers. There's always a reason. Knowing the reason is not the same as fixing it, but it opens up choice. Because once you can see what the loop is giving you, you can start to ask whether you can get that thing somewhere else. Move 3. Redirect what's actually in front of you. This is the tiniest of moves, and it's the whole practice. When you notice you're in the loop, look up. Literally look up if you can. What is in the room? What is on the desk? What is on the plate? Who is in front of you? What can you hear right now? What does the light look like where you are? This is not a mindfulness exercise. It's a redirection. Your attention has been dragged into the past. You are gently bringing it back every time you do this. And I do mean every single time. You are practicing the muscle of present tense living. You will forget. You will drift back. You will do it again. The muscle grows slowly, and that's fine. Move 4. Visit the room on purpose on your own terms. Here's the part nobody tells you. You're allowed to visit the past. You're allowed to sit in the room deliberately when you have chosen to. Journaling, therapy, a long walk where you let yourself think about something, a conversation with someone who knew you back then. These are all ways of visiting the room intentionally and not being ambushed by it, but going in on purpose. The visits are actually part of what makes the room stay in the room. When you avoid the past entirely, it starts leaking. When you refuse to look at it, it shows up uninvited. But when you visit it on purpose, in contained ways, at times you've chosen, it stays where you left it more reliably. Move 5. Fill the present with things worth being present for. This is the quiet secret. The past has less pull when the present is more interesting. If your current life is mostly obligation, mostly performance, mostly the same thing every day, of course your mind drifts back. It's looking for texture. The work of leaving the past in its room is also the work of building a present that's worth staying in. Real conversations, real interests, real relationships, real attention to what is actually happening. The more your present has to offer you, the less the past has to compete for. This is why the work of authenticity and the work of leaving the past in its place are connected. A real, present, authentic life is one of the few things strong enough to compete with the pull of the old material. Give yourself somewhere to be that's worth being. 6. What you get back. I want to end by telling you what comes back, because this work is hard and slow, and it helps to know what's on the other side. When you start bringing your attention back to the present, even a little, even sometimes, you begin to notice things that you stopped noticing. The taste of your coffee, the particular quality of light at 4 in the afternoon, the way a friend's voice sounds when they're actually laughing versus when they're being polite, the specific pleasure of your own bed at the end of the day. Small things, the kind of things you used to notice as a child before the past got so loud. You start to actually be in your conversations, not half in them while your mind's somewhere else running a decade-old scene, actually in them, which means you start hearing what people are saying and responding to what they actually said and being present with the person actually in front of you, which changes the quality of everything. You start to have room for new things, interests you'd forgotten about, curiosities you stopped following, a book you actually want to read, a conversation with somebody new, a hobby that has no purpose except that you like it. The past had been taking up so much bandwidth that there was no room for anything new to come in. When it recedes a little, the new becomes possible again. You start to feel your own life happening, not observing it from a distance, not narrating it in the third person, actually being in it, which is what most of us thought life would feel like when we were younger and imagining what being an adult was going to be. It turns out it feels like that when you actually show up for it, not before. And here's the quietest thing that comes back and the most precious. You start to notice that you are, in fact, still here, that whatever happened to you did not, in fact, end you, that you survived it, that you are on the other side of it, that the person who was hurt is not the only person you are anymore. There's a current version of you alive today whose life is not over. That current version deserves to be met, and meeting him or her requires being present for him or her. which is impossible if you're always somewhere else, still living in the room where you got hurt. He or she is here. He or she has been waiting. He or she has been very patient. And he or she is glad on the days when you show up for them that you came back. 7. Closing. Let me bring this home. The past is real. What happened to you was real. The hurt is real. None of that has to be denied or minimized or wrapped in a wellness slogan to make it easier to talk about. The past is part of your story, and it will be part of your story for the rest of your life. But it belongs there, in the past, in the room in your house where past things live. You are allowed to visit that room. You are not required to live in it. The work is not letting go. The work is placement, acknowledging what happened, honoring what it cost you, and gently, over and over, returning your attention to the present moment that is currently unfolding in front of you. The moment you are living right now, the one you only get one of. Every time you notice the loop and gently redirect, you are practicing this. Every time you look up from the old material and see what is actually in front of you, you are voting for your present life. Every time you visit the past on purpose and then close the door and walk out, you're teaching the past where it belongs. You will forget. You will drift back. You will do this again tomorrow and the day after and for the rest of your life. That's fine. The practice is not one big triumph. It is 1,000 small returns. Each one matters. Your present life is happening right now. It deserves your attention. Not all of it, not perfectly, just some. Some of the attention that's been going to the past can start going to what is here. And what is here, if you look even a little, is more than you think. The past will still be in its room, but you will not be sitting there with it. You will be somewhere else, in your own life, actually living. That is the whole invitation. That is what today is asking of you. Thank you for sitting with me on this one. If any of this landed, start small. Notice the loop today. Look up once. Come back to whatever is actually in front of you. That's enough for today. You don't have to do more than that. Send this to somebody who needs it, including maybe yourself. Take care of yourselves, and when you can, take care of each other.